Get your hands on stylish t-shirts, hoodies, and more at wearbuff.com. That's wearbuff.com. And make sure to use the promo code TWB at checkout for 20% off your first order. Stay Buffalo proud with Wear Buff. The Buffalo Bills survived the Miami Dolphins and improved to 7-2 on the season this week on the Wandering Buffalo podcast.
You're now listening to the Wandering Buffalo podcast with your host, Justin Goddard.
Bills Mafia, welcome into another episode of the Wandering Buffalo podcast, a show on the Buffalo FamBase podcast network. My name is Justin. I am your host today, and 7-2. It was ugly. It was a stressful game. Tyler Bass with a 61-yarder to win it all, just as we all had been predicting. I know we've all been in our friend circles talking about the Bills, saying something along the lines of, Tyler Bass is really going to hit a magical kick to win us a game, and certainly not the opposite conversation of, we're surviving with him right now, but he's going to miss one that's going to cost us a game. So, completely opposite of what I was expecting. Kudos to Tyler Bass. What I loved most about that kick was the team's reaction around him, the stadium erupting, and Tyler Bass himself doing like some swag dance after it. And I remember when Tyler Bass was good, he was making these kicks and he was doing like the "you can't touch me" swagger after kicks, and just seeing that reaction out of him. I don't know what this will mean long term, but it certainly felt in that moment like this could be kind of a turning point for him. Make no mistake, we're all riding very high off Bass right now. This needs to be sustained. This needs to be, the conversation going forward. Not going to forget that in this game, he, missed a PAT, hit a post. It's not what you want to see. Glad he was able to come up, huge in a big moment. But, kudos on the coaching staff for believing in him, giving him a chance for that. Because I'll be honest, seeing him walk out on the field, you're kicking a field goal that long, and the other team's got Jason Sanders, and, you miss that field goal, you're giving them a pretty good opportunity to, at least take some shots down the field. So, like I said, just the way we drew it up, exactly what everybody expected. So from this game, I don't want to spend too much time on it because at the end of the day, a win's a win. Good football teams find ways to win games, and some of them are going to be really fun boat races where you fall asleep before the game ends. And some of them are going to be tough, ugly struggles. And in particular, when you're playing division games, you're going to get more of that. And considering the opponent here, I mean, a loss to the Bills this past Sunday effectively ended the Dolphins season. I mean, it's one thing to have gotten to 3 wins and have the home stretch, maybe have an outside chance of the playoffs. I mean, for what it's worth, the AFC is still pretty wide open this year, but, they basically have to win out to be getting a playoff spot. So that considering, the lead the Bills have in the division juxtaposed against Miami basically being in a must-win situation, I expected this game to be, a tough battle, a closer game. Defensively, couldn't do much of anything. I mean, I know Tua's a quarterback that gets the ball out of his hands fast, but they don't have a very good offensive line. We've been able to get after him before. I mean, he faced next to no pressure, ends the day 25 completions on 28 attempts. But Tua had a good day, for what it's worth. I think the defense had, some opportune moments. We had the peanut punch or the fumble recovered by Elam. That was a huge play. But I do want to kind of take this time to address something that I haven't really talked about much on this show. And it's kind of the idea, this was the common theme coming through my phone yesterday about how much the Bills' run defense sucks. And, that our moves at the deadline should be addressing the run defense. And I could be completely wrong about this. I'm wrong about things all the time. I wouldn't be too hopeful on, moves at the trade deadline to shore up the run defense. This is a defense that is inviting you to run. For what it's worth, it's predicated on stopping the pass. We have good cornerbacks. We have a good back end of the defense. And we've seen this defensive scheme for years now, where they're not going to commit extra people to the box. You're not going to see 3 linebacker sets and take Taron Johnson off the field. You're just not going to see this team selling out to stop the run. If they leave nickel, it's to go to dime. They just are inviting teams to run the ball, and they're saying, you're not going to get any deep passes on us. We're going to give you the underneath stuff. We'll come up and tackle. And it's the same thing with running the ball. And it's super painful to watch. And in this game in particular, I think it felt worse because they weren't getting any stops to come off the field on third down. Typically, when they're inviting the run like that, they still get, maybe a run or two that goes for 2-3 yards, and you still get them in a, 3rd and 6, and you play pass defense, and you get the stop, you get a turnover, whatever the case is. In this game, they just kept allowing conversions, and super evident on the drive where they go 14 plays, I think it was, 97 yards, and, they did it with a mix of run and pass, but they effectively ran all the way down the field on us. And watching a drive like that, it makes it really hard to be on board with the defense. But the general strategy is they're inviting teams to run. And like I said, if you're expecting that to change at the deadline, I wouldn't get your hopes up. Offensively, also not like this crazy prolific day. Definitely some things that I didn't like. And I'll start by addressing the officiating real quick. And it feels like no matter how many times I say I don't want to talk about officiating, they give you something that has to be mentioned. And, my general philosophy here is kind of officiating is bad across the NFL. If you think it's unique to Bills games, watch a few other games. It's bad across the league. And when it's bad across the league, there's going to be some games where more calls go your way and other games where more go against you. There's going to be games where the flags just matter more, and maybe it's not, 100 yards worth of penalties, but the flags that you did get are huge flags. And kind of my stance on that is you have to play well enough to overcome the flags because they're going to happen. So in this game, yes, 2 absolutely terrible holding calls in the red zone. Take a touchdown off the board. The first play was, a snatch trap from Deion Dawkins. We've seen him doing this all year. Like, it's elite offensive lineman play. You kind of let the guy get inside you, chop the hands out, and their momentum takes them to the ground. I don't know what the hold was here. Maybe Dawkins kind of standing over him and like setting his hand on him. I don't know what we're calling here, but the direct next play, it was like a 20-yard awesome run for Josh Allen, jumps up in the stands, touchdown, and this gets called back on an Osiris Torrance hold, which, like, literally they throw the flag when the ball's past him. His defender's not even, like, turning around to try to get into the play. There's, you see, like, this small little jersey tug, I guess maybe that's what they threw it on, but, like, the defender's not even trying to be in the play. Terrible call. And we can be mad at these terrible officiating errors, right? While also knowing that the Bills shouldn't have been in that situation. The play directly before these plays, I believe, was the James Cook drop. And for whatever reason, James Cook, he seems to have improved on his receiving this year. There's less times that we're talking about this. It seems like he only drops the ball when he has like a direct touchdown in front of him. And this one was, he had like 2-3 steps on the linebacker. He's going to get to the corner with the ball, and he's pretty much going to waltz into the end zone. He drops that, and then we have the ensuing plays. So right there, an instance where you should have been playing well enough that the officials would have never been involved there. Is what it is. Some other things that I didn't love on this one, the Keon Coleman play, that was a tough one. This is another play where he catches that ball with his momentum. He's probably going right into the end zone. A quick slant. Josh puts it right on him. It gets inside his pads. He doesn't secure it. Hell of an interception by Jalen Ramsey to kind of wrestle that ball free. These are the types of things that you're going to see occasionally from a rookie receiver. Didn't love seeing it here. The receiving game in general, I mean, not exactly what you're going for. And yeah, tough day out there to not have Amari Cooper. But, I mean, you had Ray Davis leading the charge receiving with 70 yards, had that awesome 63-yard touchdown. Outside of that, Khalil Shakir had 6 catches on 7 targets for 50 yards. Not a very efficient day for Dalton Kincaid. He had 4 catches on 10 targets. Mac Hollins, for what it's worth, was 5 for 5 for 30 yards. And he did haul in the touchdown. And on the game-winning drive, he was really the only offense that we were able to create, and it was like, I think, a 7-yard catch and a 3-yard catch. The Josh Allen sack. We got, a free 5 yards on a Chop Robinson offsides. We got Jordan Poyer still loyal to the Bills. I say it in jest. I hope, Coleman does end up getting hurt on the play, so I hope he's okay. But helmet-to-helmet shot from Poyer that, gives us a first down and ends up setting up this field goal. But, it was really penalties that end up setting up the game-winning kick and not so much anything the Bills did on offense. So, really, there's a lot more to unpack with this game, but I kind of want to look at some of the big picture stuff as we're coming up on the trade deadline and just kind of take a moment to be a little critical of Brandon Beane. And the funny thing is, I more often than not hear criticism for Beane on his drafting. And I think he's had some really awesome drafts this year, looking like another good draft class. You're getting players that are making impacts. You go back to, questioning Terrell Bernard as a 3rd-round pick and all these things. I think he has far more hits than misses drafting. But where I will give some criticism to Beane was his free agent class of this year, which looks like really a complete bust. DeJuan Smoot, probably the best player out of the group that you're actually getting plays from. But Nicholas Moreau, not really having done much of anything. Mike Edwards can't get a jersey on game day, and he's asking for a trade. Curtis Samuel's been a nothing burger all year, and you felt like maybe this was a game where he could pop off. Cooper's out. Miami's allowing the underneath stuff, and he's not even getting targets. So that's a tough one. So just overall, this free agency class, not really getting much of anything. And I think that as we come up on the trade deadline, this is where we might have to see, something doing there. And this game we come out of with some injuries. DeJuan Smoot, just mentioned him as, arguably the best free agent signing of this offseason. He comes away injured. You already have Dwayne Carter on the IR. We're not sure when he's going to be back. You got Eli Anku coming up from the practice squad every week, or the past 2 weeks. Casey Toohill gets hurt in this game as well. So, I see a lot of ideas thrown around out there about, what position could be attacked at the deadline. And I see a lot of people saying safety. And for what it's worth, I do think Damar Hamlin is an easily upgradable player. I don't think that safety is as pressing of a need as what our defensive line / defensive end position looks like right now. Just, you're already not getting after the passer. Now you're dealing with a bevy of injuries for a team that likes to rotate a ton. And I think Anku is a perfectly reasonable, practice squad defensive tackle that you call up occasionally. And, maybe he gets 30% of the snaps for a game or two to get you through a spot. Depending on what these injuries look like, I just don't think that can be your plan going forward. And for a team that, I think the biggest thing that we've dealt with in our playoff losses, when you think to Chiefs games and the game against the Bengals, is just watching these elite level quarterbacks just be able to stand in the pocket and do whatever they want. And that was, the original signing of Von Miller was that was the answer of, we can't have Mahomes stand back there and not have anybody breathing on him. I think you need to dip back into that well again and hire a mercenary for the end of the season. The guy that comes to mind for me is Jadeveon Clowney. And I feel like he's this perfect idea of a mercenary. He's been letting himself float around in free agency, signing 1-year contracts, going somewhere, signing another 1-year contract, whatever. Bring him in for the rest of this year and let him hit free agency again. I think you've already gotten to the point of you've pushed your chips in on this season, bringing in Amari Cooper. I think the plan for this year was to maybe be a reset year, and all of a sudden you're sitting at 7-2. You're talking another game coming up against the Colts, and then you're playing the Chiefs. And depending on, what happens over the next 2 weeks, you could be talking about that game against the Chiefs being for the 1 seed, at least for the time being. So I think you planned on a reset year, and you're further along than you planned on being. So go get it. Make a move. Push all the chips even further into the pot. And to me, a position like safety, could you upgrade the position? Sure. Is upgrading Damar Hamlin right now a move that you feel like takes the Bills from a contender to a Super Bowl champion? And I just think for how this defense is predicated, what is asked of the safeties, kind of the keep the game in front of you and come up and tackle. I do think it's a valuable position. I think that we've seen this spot be covered with, late round picks, cast-offs. We have to remember that Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, for as awesome as they were, they were cast-offs from other teams. Hyde coming in from the Packers, switching from cornerback. Poyer, I think he was a 7th round pick. And between McDermott and Babich, safety's never really been an issue, and this is going back to the time in Carolina. They've taken late round picks and cast-offs, and they've had productive safety play. All that to say, I think if you're looking for a move that's going to put you over the top, bring somebody in that's going to give that quarterback that half tick less to get the ball out of their hands. I think the back end of the defense, you get, Benford and Douglas out there healthy, pair them with Taron Johnson, keep the safeties over the top, and I think you're okay on the back end of the defense. Where I think this defense can easily improve is just getting after the passer. And Daquan Jones isn't looking like the same guy that he started off last season as. I think Groot's playing well. Von Miller's we didn't see him for 4 weeks. I don't think he was much of a factor in this game. I think just with the injuries that have built up across the defensive line and some of the inconsistency, that's your spot to make a move to go get it. So we'll see what happens there. The trade deadline's coming up on us fast, so we'll know real quick if any moves are made. If there is a move made, I got a pretty crazy schedule this week, but I'm going to try, if anything happens, to get an episode out just reacting to that. Like I said, we have the Colts up next week. They're kind of a all-over-the-place team to me. 4-5 right now. They did, bench Anthony Richardson for Joe Flacco. So I don't think that does anything to help their long-term prospects, but clearly they feel like the AFC is open enough right now that Joe Flacco gives them the best chance to make the playoffs. I guess I would tend to agree with that for this season, though I completely disagree with the handling of that. None of my business, but we'll see what happens there. And then, like I said, after that, week 11 have huge game with the Chiefs coming into Orchard Park, possibly, still undefeated coming in. And like I said, depending on what happens over the next 2 weeks, if the Chiefs drop a game and they have to come into Buffalo, we could be talking about a head-to-head tiebreaker and the Bills being the 1 seed in the AFC. While many of us came into this season with lowered expectations and it being a reset year and just have some patience, we're talking a world where we're looking at possibly 2 weeks from now playing for the 1 seed. And, Baltimore looking dangerous and looking like the best team in the AFC, like, that's all fine and well. They dropped a pretty terrible game to the Browns, and all of a sudden we're sitting ahead of them. So a lot of football to be played down the stretch. Hoping we can kind of survive a couple games and get to this bye week and get some of our guys back healthy. It's always a struggle making it to the bye week when you have a late bye week. But this is why I love the late bye week so much. You're dinged up. You got some guys out there playing that, Bernard comes back this week. Is he 100%? Curtis Samuel was limited all week. Maybe he's still dealing with something and we can see something out of him down the stretch. I mentioned all the injuries across the defensive line. Amari Cooper kind of managing an injury. So 2 weeks, and then we get to the bye, and boy, will we be ready for it. But hopefully, you're coming out of that bye healthy. You're talking about the possibility of getting Matt Milano back shortly thereafter. Some of these guys heal up, and, crazy to think, but talking week 13, we might be seeing just about the healthiest rendition of this roster that we've seen all year. So I think that's huge for getting hot at the right time. I think we're starting to see the offense come together a little bit. For what it's worth, without a star receiver out there, without Coleman, in the late stages of this game, you have a team that was still able to put up 30 points, and in a game that obviously wasn't, the best version of themselves. So plenty to get excited for. Like I said, stay tuned. Hopefully we get to talk about something exciting happening at the trade deadline, so stick around for that. If you made it this far in the episode, I do ask, as always, you like, share, drop a comment, engage with us. Tell me what you're looking for at the trade deadline. Just anything. Any sort of engagement helps us out in bringing these episodes to you every week. That's going to do it this week. Join us next week. This time, again, we'll be breaking down the Colts game and getting ready for the, as it stands now, undefeated Chiefs. Have a great week, and as always, go Bills.